in a world where pixels collide and music ignites the soul, a legend would emerge. The rhythmic symphony of taps and jumps consumed their every waking moment. Little did they know, they would find themselves competing against the biggest cheater in Geometry Dash history and come out on top. This is the rise of Zoink, Geometry Dash's greatest protege and player to date. Zoink started off playing Geometry Dash just like the rest of us, starting from the bottom and slowly making their way up the ranks, and one day would complete the most famous extreme demon of all time, in Bloodbath. However, little did he know, everything would change from this very moment, with his drive to improve at the game unparalleled to this day. When you try to answer the question of how a player improves at a rapid pace in Geometry Dash, there are usually three main paths that can be explored. The first of those being a gradual, exponential increase in skill, slowly climbing up the ranks over the course of over a year. The vast majority of highly skilled players followed this path, with their skill progression resembling the climbing of a ladder, where the higher you go, the tougher it gets. However, this path requires a lot of patience, with the majority of the Geometry Dash community who are kids or adolescent teenagers may not have fully developed at this time. So the next natural course of action is to skip the multiple steps and shoot straight for the top rung on day 1. This process is known as jumping, where a player with not nearly as much experience as players who can complete the hardest levels, but goes for one anyway, often taking them months or even years to complete one level. But once they've done it, they become accustomed to the hardest levels in the game and can complete them at a faster and faster rate. The third and final way to gain skill is to purchase Zbot for $2 and cheat your way to the top, deceiving the entire community for years on end. Actually, no, don't do that, because that's not fun for anyone. So what path did Zoink take? After seemingly going for the latter route with his early Bloodbath completion during the pandemic in 2020, he immediately went for the top, attempting to jump from Bloodbath all the way up to Zodiac, which at the time was the third hardest level in the entire game. To further complicate things for our friend, he made the jump while playing on his native refresh rate of 144 Hz. There are easy to get third-party softwares that can increase your game's frame rate, altering the physics of the game in favor of the player. The majority of the top 10 players at the time would use the FPS bypass all the way up to 360 FPS, but Zoink was not deterred and made a huge push to complete the top 5 level, against all odds. He would record a run of 97%, crashing at the infamous ending, but would not be denied, as he would complete his jump from Bloodbath, with his Zodiac completion coming on October 24th, 2021, which at the time of completion was still well in the top 10, ranked number 6. Zoink had announced himself onto the playing scene, but this was only the appetizer of the 30-course meal that was in store for him. He would complete a pair of Nepesta verifications shortly after, being WoW, a very fast level with carpal tunnel-inducing spam sections, and Deimos, a faithful remake of Phobos that was verified nearly 3 years prior. After those completions, paired with other notable runs and a completion here and there, 2021 would reach its end, with Zoink having established themselves as an underrated player in the playing community. But Zoink would come out firing out the gates in 2022, as just days after the ball drop, he would record his first uploaded progress on Slaughterhouse, the hardest level in the entire game. 51% may not seem like that much of an insane run when looked at today, but at the time of this run being recorded, the level had only received one victor, being Doggy. If Zoink were to become the second victor of the hardest level of the game, it would for sure give him a massive boost in popularity. However, just days following this upload, Sakuma Circles would be rated and instantly placed at the number 1 spot, knocking Slaughterhouse out of the top. It's unknown if this led Zoink to change their course or not, considering that after this placement, Zoink would tackle a bunch of other levels, including Calculator Core and Bloodlust, and would become the first American victor of Hard Machine a few weeks later, the same day that he would receive a new keyboard that would elevate his play. At this time in the community, using a keyboard instead of a mouse was seen as foolish, until it was discovered that using the right keyboard can actually give you a lot of benefits that a traditional mouse wouldn't. For example, the keyboard Zoink obtained, the Corsair K70, has an 8K polling rate, allowing for nearly zero input latency, allowing for easier execution of hard or frame-perfect jumps. He would go on to prove the superiority of using a keyboard, with the completion of Tartarus just 8 days later, having completed the level which stood at number 1 longer than any other level, and the 4th hardest at the current moment. Zoink was rapidly approaching the top players, entering the top 50 on the stats viewer around this time. He would complete 2 more top 10 demons, being the Golden, followed by Sonic Wave Infinity, completing the entirety of the new RGB trilogy in just 1 month. With half of the top 10 finished, he would make the decision to grind out Slaughterhouse again, with a nice surprise run of 60% on Sakuma Circles on top for good measure. He'd make incredible runs, including 23 to 93, 79%, 86%, and finally 91% on April 4th. At this point, Slaughterhouse had still only recorded 1 victor, with the recent exposal of Whisker leaving the position wide open. Additionally, the level had been swapped with Sakuma Circles, returning to the number 1 spot, likely giving a huge boost in drive to keep playing. He'd continue the grind of the level on his Twitch channel, recording runs of 92% and 93%, but eventually, after over 75,000 attempts, he'd finish the job.
Yes! 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 Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! I'm done! I'm finished!
Zoink was now a victor of the hardest level in all of Geometry Dash, being the second victor of the level behind Doggy. Holding the title of having the current #1 demon completed is a feat that has only been accomplished by a select few individuals, and Zoink made their presence known with Slaughterhouse as the first top 1, but this isn't close to the end of the story for him. His next step would be pushing for the top 10, with 4 levels still eluding him, including Sakuma Circles. Speaking of which, that's what his next big level would be. He grind out the level on his Twitch channel, with his completion coming on April 20th, but it wasn't without some controversy. For those who don't know, Sakuma Circles got a redecoration in order for the level to be rate-worthy today. In the process of the level being upgraded, some of the hitboxes in the wave at 66% were slightly misaligned in a way that made playing the level in full detail easier than on the legacy version, which the majority of players use. However, the hitboxes would later be updated in the decorated version to match the real hitboxes, but what if this update didn't reach Zoink, as the optimized version that he beat the level on has the old hitboxes, making this completion ever so slightly easier than a normal completion. There was a mixed view from the community as if the record should count, however in the end, the record was deemed legitimate and the completion counted. With that aside, the last 3 levels in the top 10 stood no chance, as Zoink would complete Firebrick, True Fet, and finally on May 18th, he would complete Arcturus to round out the entire top 10, joining the handful of players to achieve this feat, but with the hardest list of 10 levels out of any top 10 victor, Zoink had submitted himself as one of the best players in the game currently, but didn't get the coverage that other players had received. Despite beating the entire top 3 in the span of just 1 month, he hadn't yet received the rights to a level verification, which is a very effective way to boost your popularity, especially if the level in question is both well known and difficult. So what was his big verification going to be? No extremely hard levels were in need of a verifier at the time, so there wasn't an option there. The next best option is to join a race to verify a level that is already released on the servers. Normally, these races are very hard to come by, with on average 1 or 2 level races a year, but the time was right for Zoink, as 2 very popular levels in the community had ongoing races that had a high amount of progress. He had 2 choices: Silent Clubstep, an impossible level made several years ago, or Akron, a more recent creation that had a number of active competitors, with more modern gameplay and decoration. Zoink chose to commit to Akron and join the battle of the verification, but it wouldn't come easy. Acron, being heavily inspired by Arcturus, holds a lot of similarities to its gameplay, but cranked up to 11. Being only 67 seconds in length, Acron features high amounts of condensed difficulty, with near impossible ship and wave gaps that will truly test a player's patience. What separates Acron from Silent Clubstep and other hard levels, however, is its balancing. While Silent Clubstep features an extremely hard pre-drop, the level's difficulty falls off in the second half, apart from a short duel at 62%. The last 76% of the level doesn't come close to the top levels today. It's essentially a test of nerves after eking your way through the hardest pre-drop in the entire game. Akron, on the other hand, doesn't hold back, with the entire level being very consistent in its difficulty, with no breaks whatsoever. The last 20% in particular is up there with the most chokeable end sections in the entire game, as nearly every click in this part is a frame perfect, complicating matters further. But Zoink was not deterred by this behemoth of a level, making slow but substantial progress, and after only a week, recorded a run of 66%. Just days after that, he would take a stranglehold of the race to beat the level, recording runs of 82%, followed by an outing of 91% on June 2nd. He had made it to the ending, one of the biggest tests of nerves that the game has ever seen. The previous verifier of the level recorded countless deaths within the last 20%, with the farthest recorded run being 96%. Could Zoink bypass that, or would he repeat history?
It's spawned on me.
No!
It's spawned on me. It's spawned on me.
No.
The ending would get to Zoink, as he racked up several deaths in the closing seconds of the level. Eventually, he would put the level to the side and tackled other projects over the summer. With Akron on the back burner for the time being, Zoink would complete 6 levels within the top 50 and would make substantial progress on Abyss of Darkness, which was placed at number 1 on the demon list just days after Zoink's 96% fail on Akron. He'd make progress at his usual lightning speed, recording runs of 66, 77, and eventually 95% on June 25th, along with a run of 9 to 100% to boot. This left him in a rather peculiar spot, with at least 95% on 2 potential top 1 demons. Would he finish off AOD, or go for the kill on Akron, which at this point had still not been verified? He would make a choice rather quickly, announcing that he was dropping Abyss of Darkness and returning to Akron. The time and commitment was there, with Zoink taking the necessary time to grind out the level. He'd get close several times throughout the month of July, but he couldn't find the completion. He'd occasionally complete levels on the main list and spend some time with Silent Clubstep, which was verified on July 17th. However, Akron still eluded him. With his interest in GD declining, it seemed as his chances of being the first to complete the level were dwindling. With SpaceUK and Wolves showing interest in the Akron sweepstakes once again, he takes some time off for himself. He had taken roughly 2 weeks off, but had returned to the game around mid-August and took on Silent Clubstep, which had just been placed at number 4 on the demon list after being hyped up as the new hardest level in the game. Zoink made quick work of the once impossible challenge, taking just over 20,000 attempts on a top 5 demon, and was the first victor of the level after Pack's verification. Zoink, catching a stride, would make a quick return to Akron, hoping to break the 96% barrier that seemingly could not be broken, and we wouldn't have to wait long for that barrier to be broken. By 1%. He would now achieve the farthest run on the level. Space and Wolves had lost interest in the level again, and one of the Helix was too far behind to keep up with them. It was only a matter of time until he finally broke through the curse that had bested every player who had touched the level. Finally, on August 22nd, he closed the book for good.
I verified Akron! I verified Akron! What? I verified Akron!
No way.
After 72,000 attempts, Zoink had gotten his big verification, one that would solidify him as the best active player, with SpaceUK showing signs of potentially stepping away from the game. However, what was still an ongoing debate was whether he or Space was a better player outright. With the 2020 awards looming in just a few months, Zoink would make his case that he was the best player. Exactly 1 week after his Acron verification, he would go back to the level which he had left at 95%, Abyss of Darkness, taking him only 26,000 attempts in the process, far and away the record for the fewest attempts on the level. Just a week after that, he would complete another top 10 demon in Oblivion, taking him just 4 days and under 10,000 attempts, an anomaly in the present day. This means that Zoink completed Silent Clubstep, Akron, Abyss of Darkness, and Oblivion in the span of 3 weeks. Dear God. He continued his quest to complete the main list over the coming weeks and months, beating newly verified and rated levels before they were even placed on the list. He was quite literally unstoppable. When faced with an extremely difficult level in Kyuki, he put his head down and cooked, becoming the first victor of Kyuki less than 20 days after its release, in less than 20,000 attempts, 10 days after first starting the level. Kyuki would later be placed at number 3 on the demon list. So yeah, he beat the third hardest level, a level harder than both Silent Clubstep and Abyss of Darkness, in 20k. Zoink had established themselves as the clear and cut best player. However, during the 2022 awards, Zoink placed 3rd in the voting, behind Doggy, who placed 2nd, and SpaceUK would win the award for the 2nd straight year. But Zoink came out of 2022 as the best player in my eyes, proved by his insane speed and efficiency when faced with the hardest levels in the game. He finished the year ranked 2nd on the stats viewer, only behind Space himself. It wouldn't take long into 2023 for Zoink to change that, however, with his completion of EXO, a level that which he ironically left uncompleted on his profile for years. He overtook SpaceUK, taking the new number 1 position on the stats viewer. Now, there was no argument. Zoink was on top, with nobody able to match up with him. By this point, he completed over 2/3 of the main list, with only around 20 levels to go, until he would once again make history. Antwish was the first to achieve this goal back in 2020, followed by Space himself, who completed their journey around 8 months prior. He was in the final push, but still made room for another verification, being Avernus. This level had been in a lot of controversy as of late, but I'll spare the details. Just know that this level is frickin' hard. Number 2 on the demon list today, with talks of it potentially being number 1. He also beat it in only 27,000 attempts. As the number of levels left on the main list dwindled, his confidence improved, becoming the first victor of Edge of Destiny, a very hyped remake of Blade of Justice, in only 4 days, and Spawn killed Minus Dry, beating the level in 6 days, and 5.5k attempts. 5.5k for a level ranked number 9 on the demon list. My goodness. There was no stopping him from achieving his goals, and on April 23rd, he would complete the last level required for the main list.
That has to be it, bro. Yes! Yes! Yes!
Being officially the 3rd victor of the main list, Zoink had solidified himself in the Hall of Fame of top players. There's a legitimate case for him to be the best player to ever touch the game, and with a lot left in the tank. Zoink is only 15 years old today, and shows no signs of slowing down. I don't want to promise anything, but he's fully capable of beating the entire list if he's up to the task. And what makes his reign even more impressive is a bombshell that was dropped on the community just 2 days after his completion of the Art of the Blade. SpaceUK, Zoink's biggest competitor throughout 2022, was caught and exposed as a cheater, hacking essentially for their entire career, making Zoink only the second person to complete the main list alongside Nswish. We're essentially reliving the days of Riot vs Cyclic, where the best legitimate player went toe-to-toe with a cheater and won. Upon the news breaking to the young champion, he would reflect about his time as a player in a YouTube community post. Zoink, much like most of the community, looked up to him as a player, and some of us may not be where we are today without his community presence. He concludes the post with the announcement of making an effort to improve himself as a person, one that I, along with the community, support fully. Even with the whole main list done, Zoink is still finding levels to complete. Apart from his usual completion of every new rated level within the usual 2 days, he just recently verified an update to Cosmos, a hyped up level that has been in the works for over a year. And that takes us to today, where Zoink has been completing levels on the extended list, perhaps in an effort to one day finish the entire demon list, and is the first player to ever reach 7,000 list points on the stats viewer. Maybe, just one day, Zoink will finish the entire demon list, an effort which has never been accomplished before, and an effort which would immortalize his playing career for eternity.